I just want to welcome you on behalf of the Atlanta Global Studies Center. This will be an informal conversation with Dr. Neelam Chowdhary on her presentation, Educating Global Citizens, Teaching the UN SDGs Through a Global Competence Framework. And I'd like to thank Dr. Neelam Chowdhary for being here with us tonight to answer your questions. So I just see a couple of people here, and I'm sure a few more will be joining us, but Dr. Chowdhary, I'll let you take over.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Diana. Does anybody have any questions, or maybe I can ask if people had a chance to view the recording, the pre-recorded presentation? Maybe just a virtual raise hand. Okay, it doesn't look like people have. Okay, so I'll just make a brief introduction of myself, and then maybe I'll share a few slides just to kind of get the conversations going. Let me get to that right now. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Neelam Chowdhary. I'm the Executive Director of Global Learning Programs for the Center for Global Education at Asia Society. And our work there is a lot around this concept of global competence, or raising global citizens. And the way we do that is we provide professional development and resources to schools. And we do this through K-12 in the United States, and we do have some partner schools internationally. And our focus really is to support teachers in thinking about global competence as a framework that can, be embedded into any discipline that they are already teaching. So, for example, a biology teacher that may want to really think about, how to get her students to think about the 4 domains of global competence, we design professional development programs to help that teacher do that. And so this session here is a little bit about global competence in the 4 domains, and I'll share that framework with you. And I will also get into the UN Sustainable Development Goals and how that can be aligned to the 4 domains. So I think I'll just share a few slides and maybe go over a little bit what I did in the presentation, and feel free to ask any questions, or I'll stop periodically to see if there are any questions and maybe points for discussion. So I'm thinking everybody can see my slide. So I'll just give a little background and introduction to global competence. There was a video there, but I don't know if it's gonna. I'll just keep going.
If you want to show the video, you should be able to do it from share screen, but you have to click the optimize
that arrow.
Video.
Yeah, I don't know if I did that, so I'm just going to check and see if I did. Just a second. There we go. Okay.
There are 4 key elements of global competence. Global competence starts by being aware, curious, and interested in learning about the world and how it works. Students are able to ask globally significant questions, analyze evidence from multiple sources, and develop an argument that draws defensible conclusions. Students recognize that they have a perspective and someone else may or may not share it. They weigh all sides and from that incorporate different perspectives into their point of view. Globally competent students effectively communicate their ideas with diverse audiences, including through the use of appropriate technology. While English is the primary language of business, speaking another language is important for collaborating across borders. By applying what they have learned, students can translate their ideas into appropriate actions to discover solutions for both local and global challenges. We now face a critical imperative: to prepare all students for work and civic roles in an environment where success increasingly requires the ability to compete, connect, and cooperate on an international scale.
Great. So what you saw from that presentation was just a brief on the 4 domains. So the way we look at this is, we want in global competence, it says here in the slide, is a capacity and the disposition to understand and act on issues of global significance. And so there are 5 reasons why global competence matters, and you see them here on the screen. I'll just go through them briefly. I won't read them all because you can see them. But one is they provide that toolkit to really help young citizens or young people to think about problems and opportunities and ways in which they can solve these problems. Students now, as some of you know, and most of you know, is they just require different skills. It's, not a lot of what we grew up with and the kind of education we had, although that was important. There are other and different skills that they need. That students should really think about individual actions, and that they have to also consider, how they're going to integrate all of this into the real world and apply some of this in everything that they do. And then finally, a lot of what we're seeing in business and in the real world these days, require students to be able to really enact those 4 domains. We want them to be able to recognize perspectives, investigate ideas, communicate ideas, investigate the world, communicate ideas, and take action. And so a lot of the future careers, or a lot of the entrepreneurs of today are really trying to solve some of these global challenges through those 4 domains. And here, this is just, and you'll probably, if you saw my presentation, you probably heard this already, but if you didn't, I would really encourage you to go to our website and download this free resource. We developed it with OECD, and it is the definition of global competence with a ton of examples, ways in which you can get started and do it in your classrooms, and a few case studies. So I think it's a really useful kind of resource for people who are just getting started and thinking about how to incorporate some of this into their curriculum, into their classrooms. And here again are the chart of the 4 domains. That's just a little bit about our reach, so I'll kind of skip on that, but let's get into the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So many of you have seen this chart before, and it's really, I think, a great visual, even for students, to kind of take a look at what the goals are. And if you look at all of them, there's probably at least one that any student would be interested in learning more about, taking action and doing something about. And that's, I think, the exciting part about, thinking about global citizenship in your education, is that it is a real motivator for students. Because once they know that what they are learning is actually something that can benefit the world or benefit other people, it's really, something that they get excited about. And I've always believed, and a lot of times I think we should just be listening to people 18 years old and younger, because they are the ones that really kind of have that pure view about the world and how things should be. And I think that younger age is really a great time to get kids to really thinking about all of this stuff. We recently just embarked on a big, a relatively big project to start working in post-secondary and in Korean technical education. And a lot of the same really applies to post-secondary, because again, students at that age or at that point in their lives are really thinking about the changes they want to make and the things that they want to do and how they want to really make improvements in this world. And so I think teaching the sustainable goals through global competence is one of the ways in which we can do that. Another framework that we rely upon and really focus our teachers into thinking about this when they're designing their curriculum is called SAGE. And this is really a way for you to kind of filter and think about what it is that you're designing to make sure that it's going to hit all these points and that it is going to be a true performance-based assignment. And the first thing is about student choice. So as I was just saying earlier, making sure that, or giving students the opportunity to really think about what it is they want to learn, what it is that they are passionate about, is that student choice piece, and it gives them that motivation. And the authenticity. So you want to make sure that your activities and your curriculum and your units are really based in something that is authentic, something that they would do in the real world. And one example about this is, if there is something that they feel passionate about. So let's say it's water quality in their neighborhood and making sure that there is pure and clean water. They could write a paper about it, and that's probably good. The research in order to write that essay, write that paper is probably really essential. And it's a skill that they need to have. But to take a step further, an authentic experience could be for them to create a social media campaign, let's say, or to create a video or a PSA, something that is going to really get the word out there and to really provide an authentic experience that also gets at, I'll skip to E here for a second, an exhibit to a real audience. So, these days you want students to be able to know how to research, and you want them to be able to organize their ideas in a paper or an essay, but you also want them to be able to be motivated enough to know that this is something authentic and that people do in the real world, and that there is a real audience behind what it is that they're doing. And so that's kind of where the E in the SAGE fits in. And then just going back to G, global significance, I think that speaks for itself. If you're doing something around the SDGs, or if you're doing something related to a global issue, you're definitely getting at the global significance. So this is kind of the framework that we use a lot in our professional development. We use a lot of frameworks, but this one is really a way in which teachers and educators can kind of assess their own work and their own units as they're designing. I want to stop there and see if there are any questions. Okay. And this is, now I'm going to, Diana, if you could just let me know if, I'm going to go to our website if you can see this. I can't remember if I shared my screen, okay, great.
I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so on our website, we have a lot of free resources. And again, it's asiaSociety.org/education. And if you go there, you'll be able to see everything that you see at the toolbar up top with professional development, educator resources, our ideas and publications. And then we've designed since the pandemic began, we've just put together a lot of free resources. And we have one section called Asia Society at Home and another Education for Equity. And at some point, I think these two do need to be consolidated. But the most relevant, I think, for us today here is the Asia Society at Home and the Global Learning section. And these are some examples of projects designed to address the UN Sustainable Goals. And here's just a description. You can read it when you're on there. Again, the chart of the goals. Some tips on teaching virtually, because a year ago that was something that our educators really wanted to know a little bit more about. So some principles, tips on that. Again, the SAGE framework, so we have it all here for you. And so what I'll do is I'll just share some of the units we have here, and then I'll go into one of them. So here we have decoding information bias, exploring a free and fair press. Debate podcast, perspectives on the coronavirus, infographic design, the challenges of xenophobia, digital stories, poverty and hunger, oral history projects, understanding the migrant and refugee experience, digital resources, investigating oceans of plastic, and then projects organized by the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And those are just project outlines and ideas. And I'll share that in a minute. So let's go into, for example, digital resource curation. And so, as we all know, curating content is a big deal right now. A lot of people are doing it online, basing their websites or social media on that. It's a way that a lot of people kind of build their niche and are able to communicate a particular issue or topic to their audience. And so this project kind of gets to that. Let me scroll down here. So here we provide just, what is resource curation, and, why is it important on a global, related to a global issue? And how do you make this project authentic? And I won't read this, but if you have a chance to go to the website, you can read it, for yourself. But it gives a little background on the sustainable goal of, life below water, and how that is, studying that or thinking about a project around that is authentic in itself. So we give a little bit of background around that. And then a brief example, just a one pager of what the project could look like. So in this case, we've, as I mentioned earlier, SAGE just kind of split it up into the 4 parts of SAGE so that the teacher gets a little bit of an idea of how they could put this together. And in this case, the students are doing resource curation or curating an annotated list of, the impact of plastics in the ocean. And that annotated list could be used for a variety of different projects. So this is just one way to get started. So here we have some ideas on how this is relevant for student choice, how it's authentic, how it achieves the global significance, and what students can do to exhibit to a real audience. And we provide just a few resources there. The other thing that we include in this little unit is additional resources. So for some of you that are not familiar with Asia Society, we're a global organization, and we tackle a variety of different issues that are relevant to anywhere across Asia and the United States. So we have a panel here discussing, all this very important concept of who owns the water. So the video is here, and we have in each of our units, we do provide, Asia Society resources, videos, talks, panels, articles, anything related to that topic. So again, these are kind of real resources you can give to your students that are very authentic. And something that are great jumping off points or things that you can assign to your students, after school or as homework or what have you. So just an example of the type of unit you can find here. And then just quickly, projects organized by the UN Sustainable Development Goals here. You go into any of them. Let's just take SDG 1. And it's just a quick kind of unit that brings it all together that you could, kind of take a look at, see what standards are covered, think about, different goals for the project, just a variety of different things, essential questions, adaptations. There is no expectation that a teacher is going to download this and use it exactly as is, but our real hope is that they can take something away that they would want to integrate into their own teaching. Or this is a way for them to kind of say, aha, okay, this is a way in which I can organize my own unit planning. So these resources are all available for you here. I want to stop there again and see if there are any questions or comments.
Hi, Dr. Chowdhary. I typed a question in the chat box, but you actually answered it in the last view. I asked if there were any rubrics for evaluation or assessment, but I saw that there were.
Oh, I'm going to get to that. We do have actually a lot of rubrics. So that what you just saw was some things that we have, but I'm going to get to that, I think, in a few moments. So thank you. And I don't know why I can't see the chat. That's good. So Diana, will you let me know if you see something in the chat?
I sure will. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll just go back to the slide deck here.
There is a question now. Let me ask you before you start going again. Mary says, thank you for these resources. Are there resources for early childhood students K through 2? Yes,
and I do want to get to that. Yes, there are, and I'm going to share those in just a moment. Here we go. We have the slide called assessment resources. So this, okay, so we have what we call performance outcomes, and we've designed them in a variety of different subject areas, but our overarching performance outcomes are in a subject area which we call global leadership. And basically what we have done here, and I'll open it up. So we have the resources in all the grade levels. So I'll just open up since somebody asked. Let me first just open up the complete set. No, let's see. Let me open up grade 5, let's say. Okay, so in each package, what you will find are performance outcomes. So these are, or the explanation and the rationale around global leadership and the performance outcomes. So here we go. These are divided by the 4 domains of global competence that I spoke of earlier. And each provides about 4 outcomes that as an educator, you should be looking for in your students. So if a student, if you're looking at their work or what they're doing in the classroom, and you want to evaluate, are they really kind of thinking about investigating the world? You're going to take a look at these 4 performance outcomes to help you with that. So the first one here says poses a question on a local, regional, or global issue, and identifies its significance to a global community. So you may say, okay, I guess my student is doing that, but at what level are they doing that at? How do I know if they're exceeding, or how do I know if they're just really not getting it? And so to correlate with these performance outcomes, we've designed rubrics. And I'm going to skip the I can statements for a moment and go down to these rubrics. So each performance outcome here, which is abbreviated, the one on posing significant researchable questions, we've put together a rubric from emerging to advanced to help the teacher, the educator, the teacher know where the student is in their development around posing significant researchable questions. So what we ask teachers to do in our professional development is when they're designing a unit, they may want to select a few performance outcomes. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to do all of them, but you may want to choose at the start, maybe 2 to 4 performance outcomes, maybe 1 in each domain, depending on what it is that you're really looking to do. You might, and these are all aligned to the Common Core. Just wanted to let you know that. And so that way you can, kind of think about, okay, what is it that I'm responsible for assessing this semester or this quarter? And I'm going to look at, we're really doing a lot around communication right now. So I'm going to really focus on the communicating ideas. And then we have the corresponding rubric. And then, which I skipped over earlier, these are the I can statements. And this, for those of you that are familiar, especially in lower grades, I can statements are a way to translate, adult language, standard language, to language that is really accessible for students. And so we've done that here as well. So this poses a researchable question here, is broken down a little bit so it's easier to understand for the student. So we have these, excuse me, in all of the grade levels, and I'm gonna, you see here we have primaries, grades K to 2. I'll just open those up really quick. Somebody asked that question. Again, it's the same rationale. And we go directly into the I can statements for the students. So the performance outcome is actually the I can statements for the younger grades. And you see those here. We did a little bit of a kind of survey research just to get a take, and we looked in our school network to see what it is that the K-2 teachers wanted. And for them, it was really important to have the I can statements or language that directly would get to that. A lot of them weren't doing, full-on assessments yet and all of that. So they felt that the I can statements worked well, along with the rubrics. So we have that here for K-2 teachers. And so if you are on our website, you can download the complete set or any grade level that works for you. Along with these, we also have rubrics and performance outcomes in a variety of different subjects. So we have world languages, mathematics, science, the arts, history and social studies, and English language arts. And now these are currently, they are for our network schools only. We give out the global leadership performance outcomes. Those are freely available. These are mostly for our network schools, but we're thinking about ways in which we can kind of open some of this up to a larger audience. But if you click on one, let's say you can click on one. It gives you a little bit of a kind of a preview or a brief on what global competence looks like in mathematics. And I should say that a lot of our subject area specific disciplines or subject areas are based on the global leadership. So if you have the global leadership, I think you're definitely already a step ahead. So those are a really great resource. Let's stop for any questions. Okay. The other piece of the work that I shared with you, I think I just briefly shared, is education for equity. So what we're kind of also doing a lot of is, really helping our educators and our audience in general, because Asia Society is a global organization and we serve, an audience beyond just educators. And in a lot of our work is kind of helping them think through issues of equity in education. And so we have a discussion series here called Teaching Truth to Power. And if you're interested in any of our programming, I would definitely say you should try to get on our e-blast or newsletter. You can easily sign up for that with your email. And so we are just kind of putting together a lot of different events. We had a very successful one on raising global citizens, a panel for parents and caregivers. And then another really top hits, it was around this race, racism, and social justice in rural language classrooms. So that was pretty well attended as well. That's another resource. And then, let's see, I guess I'll just show one more. This one is our own Voices virtual reading room. And it's a way for us to highlight Asian authors In the virtual reading room, we did one last week on the Seed of Compassion, written by the Dalai Lama. We have a few more that we're just finalizing for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month next month. And so if you check back on our website, you'll see a lot more programming that's happening. So that's some of the work we're doing around education for equity. Okay, and then we do have a series of online courses. And Diana, should I keep going? I know we only have 5 more minutes, so I want to make sure that we also have time for questions and
I
any
think you
discussion.
should keep going, but please, if you're in the audience, and you have a question, please note that we have 5 minutes left for this program, and then another program will be starting on virtual exchange at 6:30. So now is your time to ask the questions if you have any.
Okay. So if you are interested, and a lot of our work that we do is through schools networks and whole schools and districts. So obviously that doesn't work for every educator, but we do have online courses that are available that we partnered through Arizona State University. Here's just a list of some of them here, just if you want an intro to global competence, which this one is free. Actually, the courses are very affordable. I think they're like $29 a course. They're 1 hour asynchronous courses that are paced. You get to decide how long you want to stay, how quickly you want to complete them. There's a lot of downloadable material, but you see all the different kind of topics that we cover here. Project-based learning. We have one for school leaders. We have stuff on globally significant issues, just a variety of different topics. The global competence instructional strategies is a really good one because that's, we just have tons of instructional strategies that could potentially work for any teacher, regardless of they're teaching global or not. So it's a really great resource. Just some of the types of resources that we have on here, some infographics and visuals. I'm going to skip that video. And we also have an online community of practice. And this is, if you take one of the courses, you can have access to the online community practice, which then will give you access to all of the resources that I talked about earlier. Of course, the ones that are already on the website that are freely available, but also those that you don't necessarily get on the website. And that's so. If there are any questions, you can always email me at any time if you want to follow up with anything. But I hope these resources will be helpful to you and a good jumping off point as you think about educating global citizens. So thanks for joining me today.